You okay? Can you hear me?
Good.
Sorry? Welcome, everybody. This is Talking Niagara this morning with myself and Dave. Dave, you're having some trouble. You seem to be coming in fits and spouts. Okay, welcome, everybody, this morning. We're Talking Niagara, and we're talking about various things that are impacting the Niagara region. And this morning, we're going across the river to this question about what has been going on in Niagara County. And at the moment, the DEC, which is the Department of Conservation, and the Environmental Protection Agency, which are at the town of Niagara, and they're basically investigating a whole swath of the area. They've been investigating from the air, and now they're investigating on the ground, looking into non-naturally occurring radiation, gamma rays and things like that.
That's right. We were tipped off at this story by Wilkins News, and what's happened here is Niagara County. It's not the town of Niagara; it's Niagara County.
Yeah.
And of course, they're searching for, and as Gary has told us, like there is another nightmare. There's another environmental nightmare over there. It's not just Love Canal and the chemicals; it's also dumps of radioactive material. So what they have now is, of course, expert or people going around checking radioactivity where they think it might be in and around Hyde Park, especially in Niagara County there. And they find that there are unusually high levels, and that they actually have to find people have to be removed from their homes and they can't go back. And in this particular case, at this particular time, they found 4, and they only give them a little bit of a 1 or 2 day Airbnb type of facility, and then they're on their own, according to Gary. But that doesn't say that here in this in the article. But it does say that they are required long-term temporary housing because of the levels of radioactivity around there. Now, who dumped it? Why? That's still unclear.
Because obviously, what they have to be sure about with this, I was reading through this, and what they have to be sure about with this is that it's not naturally occurring radiation, because naturally occurring radiation happens we get clusters of it anywhere.
Yes, but naturally occurring radiation, unless you're in a uranium belt or something of that kind, is usually quite small.
Yeah. There's a background level that if you take a Geiger counter across and anywhere, you'll get some slow clicking, which is the background level of radiation, which they need before they can go to anything higher. But this equipment is different. It's seemingly different.
Yeah, this is to detect, of course, non-natural, or at least even if it was natural, and the levels were too high for human habitation, but natural radiation usually isn't that. Usually radiation levels that are are going to affect your health are man-made. It's just like air. Like definitely smoke from wildfires is natural, and that'll affect your health. But normally speaking, you don't get enough of it down here to really affect your health.
Yeah,
there's fires raging up north, and that kind of thing. That may be a bad example, but maybe air pollution the same. There's a lot of air pollution we have because the cars going up and down the street, furnaces going on and off, whatever. but that level of air pollution is not really a huge problem for us. But when the air pollution levels get very, very high, let's say like in the city of Beijing or Los Angeles, then it can become a health risk. And the same thing with radiation. Low levels of radiation aren't going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Those are usually the naturally occurring ones. But this is a human-made radiological materials.
Yeah.
Right in the county. Now, this doesn't really go off to tell you where it comes from. It just really is an article about how they approach the finding of it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're basically looking at both Niagara and Erie County with this radiological assessment. And they started aerial surveys hundreds of feet in the air in 2023. And they're now moving to ground level to get more precise locations. Because whilst they know they've got kind of some generalized focus areas by doing the air survey into those focus areas. Now, interesting thing about this is this department, these are departments that are run by from what I can see, the town of Niagara, the State Department of Conservation and Energy Protection Agency, EPA.
EPA is
so
a
these
fed.
Are state. Yeah. EPA is federal. Yeah.
Department of the DEC most likely be a state organization, but it looks like it's a combined effort here.
It is a state organization. I just realized that. So the EPA is a national organization, and the state is DEC, Department of Conservation, is involved.
This has been going on for a long time. Seriously, it's been going on for a long time, and it's beginning to rebubble up again. Eyewitness News told me about a lady by the name of Ronnie Alexander, I think her name was. And there's rallies and town hall meetings trying to get answers to this. Apparently, the mayor of Niagara Falls himself would not attend these. They're looking for answers, of course. And you would think so. This is the people of Niagara County have been dumped on in the Love Canal thing. They have not been protected by the officials that should be protecting them, warning them. And in this particular case, they have to take extraordinary measures to find out where they dump radioactive materials. It doesn't go into saying who did it. I'm assuming it's the government, because they were doing the research on the Manhattan Project, whatever else. But we did it here. We don't seem to have anywhere near that problem. But we were here in the north. They were working on the boron shielding device of the nuclear bomb.
But we don't have the equivalent of the EPA with lots of money to go searching our area. Mike has dug up certain things, but having something like the department, the DEC and EPA going around state and federal agencies that have got money to go and do the research. And again, it's not about blame at this stage. It's about just finding out how extensive it is.
Well, yes, of course, the people who are affected are wanting to blame somebody and want to know who's responsible for this. Right? Yeah. They're going to need compensation of some kind. And it says here by Mike, it says, this is the way industry used to run, Rick. Bury the waste everywhere based on companies saying it is clean waste. We do have the same problems. Yes, we do. I remember talking to a guy one time. He was in and around Snyder, and he was digging away in his fields, and he found he hit a clunk, and then he dug them up, and there was many barrels of shit, basically, chemical waste dug and put into his field. Somebody somewhere along the line many years ago dumped this goop and rotting barrels in his farm, How's
Okay,
he
so
supposed
you
to know
got
that it was even there?
you got a couple of things to answer to, Dave.
Yeah.
Here. Oh, that ugly shirt. And then Ricky says beach shirt.
This is the ultimate of style, my friends. The ultimate of style.
Or lack thereof.
Our mutual friend and I Wilkins News is powerfully jealous of my fashion acumen.
You have some? Like you could have fooled
Well,
me,
obviously
Dave.
you can see this by this very fine shirt.
You could have fooled me, Dave. Clearly, you have no fashion acumen. I'm not saying I do, but But hey, I've known you long enough to know that fashion and Dave Wheeler don't go together. I'm not saying that fashion and Peter Giblet go together either. Don't get me wrong. Hey, we're both.
It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of perspective. And
at least my shirt has a certain style to it.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Let's check this one out. That's just amazing. I know I Wilkins News is so jealous of it. I'm gonna get one for him. I'll choose some. I'll go to my.
You're gonna
look, I'm gonna go to my tailor and haberdasher, aka Giant Tiger, and find something for Gary just like this.
What, a pink one?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I wouldn't do that to Gary. He'd be assassinated. If he goes among the people he knows wearing a pink shirt, he would definitely be assainated. Anyway, so back to this. Gary's talking about
Mike
a fellow by the name of Doc Holliday too. A guy by the name of Doc Holliday. Go ahead.
Mike says it's time for Magnum PI to come in.
Yeah.
And you go on.
Anyway, yeah, who's the guy that was Magnum PI? Who did the starring role?
If you're talking about the classic one, it's of course Tom Selleck.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you the name of the more modern guy.
I'm gonna have to find a wig or a hair piece like his, I guess.
Yeah, go for that. Okay. Yeah. Apparently, the Department of Conservation has set up a phone hotline for those concerned about radioactivity on their property, right? And yes, the right approach. It's not about who did it at this stage. It's about where are the clusters.
Yeah, find them, and warn the people. Make sure the people are safe. But I mean, it's long gone now. I mean, seriously, it's been there for a long, long time. But it is at least they're dealing with it now. And yeah. I think there needs to be retribution here. Who's doing this? And why did they do it? And not only that, why did they build houses over top of it?
Yeah.
And we talked about the Bombers Road School, temporary school there, right on top of the stuff.
Yeah. In a way, this all goes back to the speculation, of course, is that Mike was saying essentially that this all goes back to the Second World War and the Manhattan Project, where, of course, that project was developed in utmost secrecy. And if we were developing parts of it here on across this side of the river, it's more than likely that this area was also being used on the other side of the river.
Well, the research here by Guy Federley, he was the guy that was responsible for developing the boron that encapsulated the atomic bomb. And that, of course, as I explained, was boron sucks up any free neutron that's floating around to avoid accidents of unintended ignition of the bomb.
Yes.
What happens is you have two pieces of refined uranium or plutonium that are just shy of critical mass. Critical mass means that the piece is too small to explode, but throws off a lot of neutrons. And then you take the two pieces and hammer them together. Now you have critical mass, which means it will blow up. But they were so close to critical mass that there was a lot of neutrons flying about. So they encapsulate it in this boron, which is developed here in the Norton Company in Chippewa. And that encapsulates it right until the time you drop the bomb. You take that up.
Yeah, and you don't want the bomb going off when you drop it when you accidentally drop it in the production facility or on the airport when you're hooking it up to the plane, right?
Dave looks like, yeah. So I don't think there's a whole lot of radioactivity here. There would be around Chalk River, maybe. And we don't know where that radioactivity came from, if it was from the Manhattan Project or if it was just shipped up to Niagara Falls or the Niagara County and dumped. We don't know.
Yeah.
And there's lots of comments there. I've been told there are barrels buried in Chippewa, Silvertown.
Those stories.
There's radioactivity. Well, remember too, they used to put the radioactive the watches used to have that shown in the dark, basically the radioactive dots on.
I remember that.
People used to work in factories producing that stuff, and they were protected. And then whatever they did with the waste of those factories, you never know where they put them.
Yeah. Well, you still got these. You had the glow in the dark workers, didn't you? They came out at night, and they had a hue to them, green hue to them.
Yes. Well, anyway, I think it probably will flog that to death. But yeah,
we did that dumping of cyanide waste all over Niagara Falls. Cyanamide, you mean, not cyanide?
Well, the cyanide comes out of the cyanide is definitely.
Yes, I know. Yeah. I know. The cyanide is associated with cyanamide production. We knew that. Yeah. What I'm just saying, I'm just assuming that's what Gary meant, cyanamide production. And yes.
Well, it's from cyanamide, but it is cyanide.
Yeah. And he's told us about this before because he's basically said they ran the rail tracks up and down while these guys were cleaning the insides.
Yeah. So I don't know. We've got a lot to mop up, but they did. Accountability is one thing because the time period is so long and so far away. The accountabilities are. You would be better off to declare that there would be no prosecution if you came forward and told us what you did, because right now everybody has to guess what these companies did, where they dumped it, and everybody's responsible for this is going to hide.
Well, basically, what Mike's saying is John Allen sandpits, the cyanamide dumped there 24/7, right? And 2 years later, I'm still waiting for my shirt. Yeah. So he wants.
Yes, well, definitely. I did. I went all the way. I went all the way to Penn Center one day to buy Gary a shirt like this, and it would the Penn Center was closed, and it didn't open until much later for some reason that day, and so I couldn't wait around. I haven't been back.
Yeah, it was clearly a security event.
Yeah.
Clearly a security event.
I will have to revisit that. Yes. What size are you, Gary? Medium, I imagine. Okay. I pled the fifth.
Yeah.
I pled the fifth. Yes. Well, that may segue us to the next story.
Well, I was actually going to bring us. We'll cover that section, that story later on. I wanted to come back to something local here on this side of the river. They're saying parking at Niagara Hospital is going to cost you more money. I am very curious. I've been very I've been digging into this whole question about parking at Niagara hospitals, and I'm not liking it one bit. I find the whole affair with parking at Niagara hospitals just seems a money grab to me when people are in there at their worst. Basically, half hour is going to cost you $3.75. A day pass is going to cost you $20. A month pass costs you $100. Well, actually, a month pass isn't that bad cost wise, but hopefully you don't go to hospital that often.
Yeah,
Right?
what I really like about this is that's going to be hurtful for the average person. You know, if you've got money, a guy like me, of course, I'm single. I got pension, everything. I live a reasonably comfortable life. I'm not like a superstar wealthy or anything, but
Yeah.
I can pay my bills.
Yeah.
As long as I don't get too extravagant. So, that would be a pain in the neck for me, but I can handle it. What about a family?
Yeah.
What about a family? Let's say they got a sick child. Let's say they got a sick child and they got to go to the hospital all the time, and they got to pay $20 a day, right? They got to pay $20 a day. Come on, seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Well,
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Now, they should have some sort of ability to say anybody that has to come for a long term or anything like that, there should be some compensation type of thing or some free parking thing or something like that. But just think of that. If you've got a child in the hospital needing a lot of care and you got to go there often and you're struggling to make ends meet anyway, just think of it. That's a real killer. That's they're shooting the average. They're hurting the average earner, the lower and middle grade earner. They're hurting them. If they want, they should graduate these kind of things. If you're a wealthy person, you pay more. If you're not wealthy, you pay less. They're just hurting people like this. And of course, Wayne Gates is saying that's because the province isn't getting enough money to the hospitals so that they can.
But let's be very clear about this. It's not the province. The money doesn't go to the province.
No, it doesn't.
Right?
What Gates is saying is that the province is not giving them enough money, so they have to charge for parking.
Yeah. And here's what they're saying. Basically, the breakdown is that annual parking revenue for the Niagara region is 7.6 million. About 70% of that 6 million goes to support hospital operations and patient care. 21% of it pays for the cost of operating the parking system. Okay. That basically is saying exactly what you were just saying. Because the province isn't paying enough, we're now gouging the people who are coming to see their relatives or people who are coming for the day for an operation or something of that nature. I've been saying for years we need to reduce the cost of parking. If there's anything, this is a 50% reason for a 50% pay cut in the cost of parking. All right. We shouldn't be profiteering out of hospital parking. In fact, we shouldn't even be charging for hospital parking.
Well, there was a time when we didn't.
Yeah.
I remember going to attending classes at Brock years ago, and then going back a few years later to take a half a course there, and I was shocked by the fact that I had to pay for parking.
Yeah.
And then I was part of the archaeology club there for a while, and I had to pay $5 every time I went there. And I thought, seriously. And that was on a Saturday or Sunday when the rates were cheaper on temporary parking lots. So,
well, I remember.
Yeah, I can understand that to a point. They need money in which to maintain the parking lots and that kind of thing. But it said there, what you just said, it took 21% to maintain the parking lot. So charge people up to 30%, but that extra 70%, you need not charge. Yeah. And like I said before, you're not charging them by income here. That's an awful amount of expense for the average family.
Yeah. And you were saying, hey, a child's in hospital. So mum and dad and maybe grandpa, grandma, granddad are all coming to go see that child in hospital, and that's basically that's $3.75 an hour for 4 cars coming to that hospital at various times in the day.
Well, grandma and grandpa could probably afford it. I'm talking about the family, really, the family. That well, maybe grandma and grandpa can't afford it, and they want to go see their sick
Depends
grandchild.
who they are. Depends who they are. Just because you as a pensioner have good, a reasonably well off doesn't mean to say every pensioner's like that. Somebody who's on just the Canada pension is not that well off.
Yes, well, yeah, well, bingo callers don't have a good pension plan, but
We
but
don't have any
they got a good enough one. Anyway,
They
so
don't have any pension plan. Come on, man. We know that. You're volunteering the bingo calling.
yeah, of course. But look,
Greatest TV bingo caller on the planet, and he's volunteering his hours. I know he could sell himself. He could get 6 or 7 gigs like that. One in starting, do the bingo calling for Erie County.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I'm a wonderful human being, and that's why I do it. Anyway, so look, what I like to get right back down to, though. Okay, so we flogged this thing about the parking forever, but fact of the matter is, it's going to hurt the average person, the average lady. Can you imagine single mom? What about a sick single mom? She's got to go there, right? She's got to find someone to take care of the child, right? And then she's got to pay an incredible amount of money. She's got to roll clunker. It gets her from point A to B, and then she's got to throw out $20 just to go get treatment.
Yeah.
Come on. What are you doing? There should be exceptions here. Really, there should be exceptions for who you are. If you are a young family, you get a break on this. If you are a person of humble means, you get a break on it. You get your 10-year-old car and with a zillion miles on it, you can hardly I don't know what, you can hardly afford transportation anyway. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's be a little bit more socialist. Oh, that'll get everybody.
You didn't say that, Dave, you commie. Well, actually,
well, that's supposed to be like social democracy. In that particular case, you're supposed to be you're supposed to help out those people at the lower level,
yeah,
by making sure that they get housing and healthcare and don't go broke because they're sick.
Well, the other thing, of course, is that there are many people that because of where where the St. Catherine's Hospital is right now, they have to drive out there because there is hardly any buses go out that way. And the same is going to be true of the new Niagara Hospital when that opens in 2028, 29, 30, whenever that is expected to open. So
I expect there'll be lots of buses available there.
I doubt there'll be I think there'll be one bus, and to get from from my part of town to the hospital by bus is going to take you 3 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, hope you don't die in the meantime. They should have. Exactly. If it's going to take 3 hours, they should have paramedics on the bus then.
Yeah. Well, because how the Niagara buses are, or perhaps you don't. I've only ever once or twice traveled on them, and I like scratched my head as to think about what the hell they do on these buses.
Yeah, it's a secret. No one knows what they do on the
bus.
Yeah,
nobody. Exactly. That's a problem, right?
We're going to have to get an investigative journalist to go onto the bus just to see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So point being is, so they're basically looking at putting the price of hospital parking up, right?
Yeah, and a guy like Wayne Gates is saying, no, this is part of the government's responsibility, and the hospitals have found a source of revenue from their parking lot more than just the money it takes to take care of the parking lots and repave them or whatever else.
Yeah,
it's we found that it's 70%, of the 70% of what you're being charged goes to other things that should be supplied by the government. So Wayne thinks, and I think he's kind of on the right path. On the other hand, the single largest expense the Ontario taxpayer has is hospitalization and our health care.
Yeah.
And it seems to be ballooning. We don't have enough doctors, all that kind of thing. And we can look to the United States where it's private and it's not much better. Basically, we find a lot of doctors leaving service because because they have to have so high of insurance for malpractice. It's incredibly high.
Yeah.
In the state of Florida, where you think we need be a soft job because so many old people down there, more and more doctors are leaving the state because of the incredible amount of insurance it takes to practice. Yeah.
All right. Talking about doctors and America. Dr. Fauci was actually at a Senate hearing, and I didn't realize he was 85 right now. Right.
Yeah, he's quite an old guy. Yeah, he quit when he was 80.
Yeah.
He'd been around for a very long time. He served the government a very long time. He's got an award. Basically, he got one from George Bush way back. I forget what the name of the award is, but he got a Medal of Freedom or something like that from George Bush Jr. because of his work with AIDS back then. So he was now, but what they've done now is Senator Rand Paul has really got a bee in his bonnet for this guy. He's been Fauci has talked to the legislative, either Congress or the Senate, 20 times during COVID alone. He's talked to them well over 200 times in his career. He's talked to Congress or the legislator well over 200, I think 220 times. And just for COVID time, there was 20 times he was brought before the legislative bodies and asked and grilled with questions.
So what is the purpose of this current one? What is the investigation at the moment? Why is he pleading the fifth?
He's pleading the fifth because, Senator Rand Paul has really got something. He smells conspiracy in this. Dr. Rand Paul doesn't really have the greatest reputation himself, as aside from being a strong voice for fiscal restraint. Dr. Rand Paul he is himself a doctor, an optometrist. He hasn't got the greatest of reputations. He's a little bit of a nut, but sometimes he sounds pretty reasonable when he talks about fiscal responsibility and worried about the tax burden the United States is facing. But he really has become obsessed with Dr. Fauci, claiming that Dr. Fauci has made a whole lot of money off of COVID, that he's also known from the very beginning that the virus came from the Wuhan lab, and that Dr. Fauci has financed operations in the Wuhan lab, therefore being responsible for a lot of it. He also is claiming that Dr. Fauci has sort of clouded the issue of where the COVID came from. But if you look at Dr. Fauci's statements in the past, he's always said he doesn't know positively where the COVID virus came from. He said the wet market was the accelerator. Whether it came from, it wasn't the source of COVID. But if you look at wherever the COVID the COVID virus came from, whether it came from a lab or came from a cave with bats in it. The wet market was the accelerator. This is what confuses people. They think, aha, he says it's from the wet market. No, he says that's the accelerator. Once it got to the wet market, it exploded and really expanded from that point on.
Yeah, that's exactly. And there's a lot of difference between the source and the accelerator. But, and again, I don't know that Fauci necessarily would know the source. Is it proven that Fauci has got any money invested in that lab? That seems a lot of wild accusation to me.
Well, he doesn't get money invested in the lab, but because being part of the what's the NCID or whatever it is, the Institute of Allergies and Diseases or something like that.
Yeah,
that he being in charge of that allowed research to be done in the Wuhan lab. And everybody says but when we look at it, we find that Japan, Britain, France, United States, and some other countries all work with the Wuhan lab.
Well, exactly, and I believe that 10 other labs around the world were also doing research into COVID type diseases.
Well, it's the gain of function stuff that Rand Paul is really after him for. The gain of function is when you take a virus and you manipulate it to become, in some cases, more infectious. And of course, the dark side of that, when you do that, what you're doing is you're creating a biological weapon. But on the other hand, the real reason for gain of function research is to manipulate the virus to anticipate how it could mutate and how to see what it would look like if it mutates and what you need to do to stop it, or what kind of medicines or whatever, what it will look like if it mutates, and how then will you be able to combat it. So that's what they try to do basically, is they manipulate the virus to a means by which it's more catching, basically more infectious and more deadly. And how will you then account for that? Do you have vaccinations for it? Do you have medicines for it, etc.?
Yeah.
So anyway, Senator Rand Paul is obsessed with this. Now, the problem with Dr. Fauci has already been talking to them 20 different times during the COVID thing. And if you look at those Congress or Senate meetings, it's the same thing over and over and over again. The same question over, accusations, the same accusations, everything. So Dr. Fauci's legal team has told him, don't answer anything, because if you answer something and they hear something, they might run with it, they might exaggerate it.
Yeah.
And when we looked at the previous meetings where Fauci was voluntarily came and answered questions, we found that did happen. They just went wild on them sometimes. They went exaggerated. My biggest problem with the Senate or the Congress asking them questions is senators and congressmen are totally stupid when it comes to science.
Yeah.
They don't do their research. They can be really, really critical of Fauci if they had something to be critical about. And all it is speculation. It's speculation this way and speculation that way. And we've had, in this particular case, we had, I think, 150 scientists say, this is a witch hunt. And if you really want to do it well, you get a bunch of scientists, non-biased, non-political scientists. The problem with the Congress and the Senate, it's a very political thing.
Yeah.
Our side says you're the bad guy, and their side says you're the good guy.
Yeah. And your questions are not being asked by scientists; they're being asked by numbskulls. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that every senator's a numbskull, but when it comes to what do they know about medical science, and if the answer is a big fat zero, then what's the purpose of your question?
Yeah, I have no problem with a scientific community looking at this in an unbiased fashion.
Yeah.
Hire a bunch of scientists with virology backgrounds, put them all in a room, look at all the evidence, and come up with what they should say. But they don't do that. You get a bunch of politicians looking for to see themselves on TV, asking questions that will get everybody all wound up. You know, and yes, I saw that, Gary. Yeah, Alicia loves me. I know. You know, she's just pining for my attentions. Anyway, so Dr. Fauci has wisely said this, and this is a very, very disappointing for the Republicans, because they wanted this as a distraction from the Epstein files, and they wanted it as a distraction from the Iranian war, two things, and the affordability crisis, the three things that are going to hurt them in the next election, or potentially hurt them in the next election. I'm not so sure. That's I hope you're oh no, she's here. I am hope you are too. Oh God, no. Can you imagine? She walked by yesterday. Okay, so anyway, what I would just like to say here, though, is like this distraction they're looking for. It's a bunch of pilot politicians that are looking for sound bites and want to show everybody what they're doing. Josh Hawley, he's really likes the spotlight. So does Rand Paul here, and they're hoping for a distraction again away from things.
One of the problems about these congressional committees is that they are actually.
Well, this one's a Senate. This one's a Senate one.
Senate committees, but the same thing. These committees that they hold actually realistically more about hey, as a senator, and I'm asking you these questions, I'm so important, I'm so self-important in asking you these questions. It's not really about what you would call a public inquiry.
Well, on things of politics, things of fiscal responsibility, those kind of things, yeah, they can. But when it comes to science like this, and they said, well, this guy said this and this guy said that. Yeah. If you really want to get to the bottom of it, what you do is you get a body of scientists together to determine what could and what could not have happened better. And they've already kind of done that, but you can do that officially. You can bring everything that Fauci has done. And remember, too, there's a lot more people involved here than Fauci, right? He was just a leader. He was just one leader of a whole bunch of health departments that came to determine what was to be done. He was mostly the spokesperson, but he was only one of many, and they're trying to scapegoat one guy for COVID. And anytime I listen to any politician, when they talk about COVID or anything else scientific, they are ignorant, like beyond belief. Like years from now, they're going to go back and look, and people are going to laugh. This was what the politicians were saying back then. You know, because really get somebody who knows what they're doing and then examine the evidence and then bring charges against Fauci if you find there's relevance to it, or at least, you know. And I didn't catch Alicia's last. I think is she taken by my shirt as well?
Hell no! I need closed captions to understand her. That was what it was. What about Justin Trudeau?
What about him? He they followed the same sort of line of health that the U.S. did. They had their own nerdy scientists trying to figure out what to do. If you look around the world, just about everybody had the same response. Yeah. Right. The United States did worse than the average. They had 3 times as many deaths as we did per capita. Yeah. Italy got hit really early on, and they had the early forms of the virus were very deadly, and Italy had a whole pile of people die, and I know in the early part of COVID, it killed more than 20% of the people in my mom's retirement home. Yeah. 20 out of 91 residents died of it within about 6 weeks, including Wilma Morrison, if you know her. Yeah. And but once the protocols came in, the people got sick less and less. And I don't know, it's a hard thing to put your finger on. They killed 1.1 million people in the United States in 3 years. And that's just about where Fauci, I remember when in the early parts of the virus, Fauci was asked, what's the best and worst case scenarios for the United States? He said the very best case scenarios is only 200 and some thousand people die. The very worst case scenarios is 2,200,000 people dying. And what we got was 1.1 million, right in the middle.
Well, the interesting thing is about this is there was talk in this particular article about 1.2 million people dying in the G7 countries. Of course, no, sorry, a bit more than that.
That was the United States.
Yeah, you said 1.2 in the US. I saw this and I can't find it now. It was giving a quote about how many people died in the G7.
Well, look, worldwide it was like about, in the first 3 years, about 5 to 6 million, and that's the only ones we know about because keeping records are difficult. Since the beginning of COVID until now, remember, it's still a deadly disease. In many, I think it's around 20 million have died of COVID worldwide. And I can tell you, it depends. It depends on who you are. I know that's not robust. I know a very robust young man who spent 2.5 weeks in bed. Whereas I only and I know a family, and I point this out over and over again. A man, woman, and their daughter. The daughter got the flu for about a week. That's what it was, but it was COVID. The mother of the family spent over 3 weeks in bed and had to be packed in ice. And the father of the family didn't even know he had it. So it depends on who you are and how your body responds.
Well, plus, of course, you were talking about death statistics worldwide. One, of course, the thing that hasn't ever been publicly accepted is the more than 15 million anomaly deaths that were the anomaly in the Indian statistics. Basically, deaths in India during the COVID years spiked by more than 15 million that were unexplained.
Yeah, we reported on that a couple of times on the show during those times when you look at deaths and unexplained deaths. And of course, being a very poor country, and how do you track that, Yeah.
And a lot of it was because what was happening is you had deaths in rural areas, and the doctors in those rural areas hadn't a clue about COVID at the time when the deaths occurred.
Plus, the Indian government did not want you to know. There was a bit of a cover up there.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, what Dr. Fauci is doing here is a huge disappointment to the Republicans, who hope to have an ongoing witch hunt in Fauci's view, but an ongoing hearing to distract from the failures of the Republican Party right now. The Republican Party owns the presidency. The president is a Republican. The Senate is Republican majority, and the Congress is Republican majority. But they have not been able to bring down the affordability crisis. They've got involved in a war. They haven't been able to stop a war that they said that they would never get involved in. And of course, there's all manner of other things that they could have done. Their farmers are in bad shape. The tariffs have increased the affordability crisis in the United States, and there is no end in sight with Ukraine, which was promised too, and Gaza, which was promised. So they have failed everywhere. They've failed domestically. They've failed internationally, and they need big distractions. Now, I will put an aside here, though. I don't think they have to worry as much as they think they do, because the Democrats are really out to lunch, and nobody trusts them. And they're unless the Democrats get their act together and become more trustworthy, they're going to still lose. They're not going to. That big blue wave is not going to happen if they don't sort of get their act together. The average American in red states who don't like Trump and don't like the representatives, don't like Democrats even more. Yeah. And that's what the polls are saying. Polls are saying the average Republican does not like Trump. They do not like their representatives, but don't see any alternatives among the Democrats.
Yeah. And they want a third party, if anything.
No, they don't want a third party, but I think they need a third party. I think they need an independent party. I think the corruption, I think the uniparty that Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about is you got a lot of people all arguing in the rooms, and basically speaking, the big money is calling policy, and we've seen the damage that's been done by the Israeli lobby, how the Israeli lobby owns 3/4 of the Congress and 2/3 of the, but we have Zoom now.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. That's exactly what we need. We had alternative, we had Zoom-like equipment before this. Just nobody, Zoom hit at the right time. That really made they made a fortune out of COVID.
Well, yeah, Zoom did, and it displaced what was the other one? Skype.
WebEx. Well, there was a number of, in terms of Skype, Skype in a way, you didn't really have video conferencing with Skype, not in the same way as you do with Zoom. One of the things about Zoom is it brought up everything into the kind of what you call Hollywood Squares type format, where you could zoom in on an individual speaker, but you could see everybody in a Hollywood Squares type format. The problem was when you've got large numbers of people in the room.
Oh, did I tell you that I was on a big conference, Zoom conference, and the screen was full of all different people from all different Toastmasters clubs, and I noticed in all these clubs that I was the only one that spoke English without an accent. So all these representatives from all like I was a treasurer, and this was a conference between treasurers of all the Toastmasters clubs around North America, and they all had it was mostly Canada, but they all had accents. And so I'm there, and I've decided I'm pretty bored by what's going on, and so I start to imitate the accents I'm hearing. I start practicing the accents, and there was a German guy comes on, and he starts saying, when you do the treasurers, it is imperative that you go to the bank and you look at what is most convenient for you, and going on like this. So I thought, well, I got to practice my German accent. So I start chiming away, and all of a sudden everybody gets quiet, and the person that's leading it says, "Dave?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Could you please turn off your audio?" And I, "Oh no."
The rule about that is you keep your audio off unless you've got something to say.
Yeah, well, I had turned it on to answer a question much earlier than that and forgot to turn it back off, and everybody caught me doing my German accent. And boy, and then after that, I took my video right off too, and I just listened to what everybody said.
Yeah, right. The truth of the matter is, Rick, that Zoom released their product in about 6 months before COVID came along. They just happened to be the latest, greatest web conferencing software that was out there. We've been using, in the IT industry, we'd been using things like WebEx and the various web conferencing software for years. Skype fell afoul of this because Skype was really a telephone type situation, not for web conferencing. Although some people, I'd use Skype for web conferencing, but it was not visual in the same way as Zoom is.
All right. So I think that in the end, the Republicans are very, very disappointed that Fauci is not going to cooperate, because we do know that no matter what he said, they were going to go after him. They're going to, no matter what he said, they were going to overtalk him like they did before. No matter what he tried to assert, they were going to go after him. They're going to make a big show of it because they could grandstand and get on TV. And also they could distract from the problems the Republican Party is facing right now.
Yeah.
So they the war and the affordability crisis get everybody's mind off of that, and of course the Epstein files, which the Republicans really, really want to get rid of. They love the idea of the Epstein files when Biden was in, but once the Epstein files became revealed and who was in it, all of a sudden we don't want to know anymore. We were demanding it for 4 years, and now all of a sudden we don't want to see it, because the big pumpkin's in there so many times, and other people that give us money are in there. We don't want them exposed. Anyway, aside from that, are we on for Monday lunch? Well, yes, we are. Yeah, we're on for. Yeah, I'm looking for coupons as we speak. Anyway, so we're close to the end here, and I think, as I said, the Republicans are very, very disappointed. They hope that they could really, really grandstand with this, but Fauci wisely told them, "I'm not talking," and they said, "Well, you have to talk because you are protected by a pardon." But from the very beginning of that pardon, they've said that it might not be a real pardon because it was done by an auto pen. So they're saying they're going to pull the pardon on him. And then at the same time, they're saying, well, you're protected by the pardon, so you have to answer the questions. Mm-hmm. Well, what's it going to be? If he says anything and you pull his pardon, then you've got everything that you need to drive him crazy for the next 50 years. He's 85, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that the show is near the end, I'll just bring up Gaza again. I will bring up Gaza in Ukraine. And basically, the Ukraine has got involved in the war against Iran. I don't know if that's a good sign, and Zelensky and Netanyahu are being buddy-buddy. Zelensky, of course, is a Ukrainian Jew. And rumors have always been that he might pack a bag and run to Israel, where he cannot be extradited from. I don't think that's the truth, but no one is really thinking of Gaza right now. I don't know what's happening in Lebanon, but I do know that people are being attacked and brutalized in the West Bank with the help of the police and the IDF, who are supposed to be protecting the Palestinians, are doing the opposite. So without further ado, I bid you do not forget Gaza. It is still a nightmare.